Do you feel like you're constantly on the edge of collapse, as if the next difficulty will be the drop that overflows the cup? You're not alone, and there's a path back to your inner strength. In this video, you're going to discover 3 simple but deeply transformative steps that will rebuild your resilience from the inside out. I understand the weight you're carrying, and I know it feels impossible sometimes, but the truth is, you have within you an extraordinary capacity to recover and flourish, even after the most difficult storms. Stay with me, because there will be a special moment where you can consolidate this learning and join a community of hearts choosing love over fear. And at the end, I'll guide you through a powerful practical exercise you can use whenever you need to reconnect with your strength. So take a deep breath, allow yourself this moment of care, and let's discover together how small steps can create a gigantic impact in your life. You deserve this transformation, and it begins right now. Your secret inner strength when life brings you to your knees and everything seems to be falling apart around you. There's a quiet force that can lift you back up, self-compassion. According to Louise Hay, treating ourselves with the same kindness we offer a dear friend is the foundation of all true healing. It's not about weakness or self-indulgence, but about recognizing your humanity with tenderness. In the darkest moments, when you feel you've failed or weren't enough, that's exactly when self-compassion becomes your safest refuge. It reminds you that you deserve love, especially when you stumble. Think of Sarah, a teacher who lost her job during an economic crisis. She blamed herself daily, mentally repeating that she should have done more, been better. Until one day, exhausted from her own internal cruelty, she stopped and asked herself, "What would I say to my best friend in this situation?" The answer came like a warm embrace. She began speaking to herself with compassion, recognizing she had done the best she could with the resources she had. This simple but profound shift opened space for her to breathe again and find new opportunities. Louise Hay always taught that the way we talk to ourselves shapes our entire life experience. When you're facing challenges, your inner voice can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Self-compassion doesn't deny pain or pretend everything's fine. It simply allows you to feel what you need to feel without additional judgment. It's like holding your own hand while crossing through the storm. I'm doing the best I can, and that is enough. Allow yourself to say this and truly believe it. Resilience isn't born from hardness or ignoring your wounds. It flourishes when you allow yourself to be human. Every time you choose self-compassion instead of self-criticism, you're strengthening your capacity to recover. It's like watering a plant that was wilting. Gradually, it grows back. Louise Hay reminds us that we're all works in progress, and that each step, however small, deserves to be celebrated. When you stumble, instead of punishing yourself, try saying, "I forgive myself and love myself exactly as I am." In the next few minutes, you're going to discover how this practice of self-compassion connects directly with the words you use every day. Because the truth is, your internal conversation doesn't just reflect how you feel. It creates the emotional reality you live in. And when you learn to transform that conversation, something magical happens. You begin building a resilience that nothing can shake. Are you ready to explore this power that already exists within you? Words that change everything. Have you ever stopped to really listen to what you say to yourself throughout the day? These words, often automatic and invisible, have extraordinary power over your ability to recover from adversity. According to Louise Hay, every thought you think is creating your future. And that especially includes those internal dialogues happening backstage in your mind. When you catch yourself saying, "I always mess everything up," or "I'll never make it," you're literally programming your nervous system for defeat. Your internal words are like seeds. What you plant is exactly what you'll harvest. Imagine your mind is a garden. If you spend all day throwing seeds of criticism, fear, and doubt, what do you think will grow there? Louise Hay teaches us that we can consciously choose to plant seeds of love, encouragement, and possibility. It's not about denying the real challenges you face, but about changing the narrative you build around them. When something difficult happens, you can say this is impossible, or you can say this is challenging. But I find solutions. The difference between these two phrases may seem small, but it determines whether you'll paralyze or move toward overcoming. Meet Michael, an entrepreneur who faced 3 consecutive bankruptcies. His internal voice was relentless. You're a failure. Give up. He carried this weight until he discovered Louise Hay's work and began paying attention to the words he used with himself. He decided to do an experiment. Every time he caught himself in a destructive thought, he would rewrite it with compassion and truth. I've learned valuable lessons, and I'm becoming wiser every day. Slowly, his resilience began rebuilding, not because the problems disappeared, but because he changed the conversation he had with himself. The truth is, you can't control everything that happens in your life, but you have total control over how you respond internally to those situations. Your internal words are the filter through which you interpret every experience. Louise Hay always said that positive affirmations aren't just pretty phrases, they are powerful tools for mental reprogramming. When you repeat with intention, I am strong and capable of overcoming any challenge, you're literally creating new neural pathways. You're teaching your brain and your heart to believe in a new possibility. Now, before we continue to the next transformative step, I want to invite you to something special. If this message is resonating with you, if you're feeling you've finally found a space that speaks directly to your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive more content that will support you on this journey of self-love and resilience. Leave a like if you're committed to transforming your internal conversation. And in the comments, tell me which word or phrase from this topic touched you the most. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. Together, we're creating a community of hearts, choosing love over fear. And stay with me, because soon I'll guide you through a powerful practical exercise that will consolidate everything we're learning. Your invisible anchor when everything seems to be falling apart and you feel adrift in an ocean of uncertainties. Gratitude becomes your most reliable anchor. Louise Hay always taught that gratitude isn't just a pleasant feeling, it's a deliberate practice that transforms your brain chemistry and emotional experience. We're not talking about pretending everything's fine when it's not, but about training your eyes to see the small blessings that coexist with challenges. Even on the darkest days, there's always something you can be grateful for. The air entering your lungs, the bed where you rest, the strength that brought you this far. This simple practice creates a point of stability when everything around seems unstable. Science confirms what Louise Hay already knew intuitively. Gratitude literally rewires your brain. When you focus on what you have instead of what's missing, your nervous system receives the message that you're safe, that there's abundance around you. This doesn't mean ignoring real problems or genuine difficulties. It means choosing not to let them occupy all the space in your consciousness. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. The darkness is still there, but now there's light too. And that light, however small, completely changes your perspective and your ability to navigate what's difficult. Let me tell you about Emma, a nurse who worked on the front lines during a pandemic. She was exhausted, traumatized, feeling she had nothing left to give. A colleague suggested she start a gratitude journal, writing down 3 simple things every day. At first, Emma resisted. thinking it was too superficial for the depth of her pain. But she tried anyway. I'm grateful for hot coffee this morning. I'm grateful for a patient's smile. I'm grateful I got home safely. Gradually, something shifted. She wasn't less tired, but she was less hopeless. Gratitude didn't erase her pain, but it created space for joy to exist too. According to Louise Hay, when you practice gratitude consistently, you're telling the universe, I recognize the good that already exists in my life, and the universe responds by bringing more things you can be grateful for. It's an upward spiral of positivity and resilience. Start where you are, with what you have. I am grateful for this moment of peace. I am grateful for my body that carries me every day. These gratitude affirmations aren't just words, they're bridges connecting you back to life, even when you feel disconnected from everything. The beauty of gratitude is that it's always available to you, no matter how difficult your circumstances. It doesn't require external resources, just an internal willingness to look with softer eyes. And when you transform this into a daily ritual, something magical happens. You begin noticing more and more things to be grateful for. Your attention expands, your heart opens, and your resilience strengthens from the inside out. But gratitude is only the second step of this transformative journey. The next step will take you even deeper, to territory many avoid, but which is absolutely essential for building true and lasting resilience. Rituals that transform gratitude becomes truly powerful when you transform it from an occasional thought into a sacred and intentional ritual. Louise Hay always emphasized that consistency is the key to any real transformation, and this applies perfectly to the practice of recognizing the blessings in your life. It doesn't need to be elaborate or take hours of your day. In fact, the simplest rituals are often the most sustainable. It could be pausing for 30 seconds before your first meal to give thanks for the food, or writing 3 things in your journal before bed. What matters isn't the grandness of the gesture, but the intention and repetition that create a new neural pattern in your brain. Think of rituals as emotional anchors you spread throughout your day. They bring you back to the present moment, remind you of what truly matters, and create small oases of peace amid chaos. When you wake up and, before even picking up your phone, place your hand on your heart and say, I am grateful for this new day and the possibilities it brings. You're setting the energetic tone for the coming hours. Louise Hay teaches us that these moments of conscious recognition are like deposits in an emotional bank account. The more you deposit, the more resources you have to withdraw when times get tough. Meet David, a single father balancing 3 jobs who could barely breathe between responsibilities. He felt constantly overwhelmed and on the verge of collapse. So he created a tiny ritual. Every time he washed his hands during the day, he paused for 5 seconds and acknowledged one good thing. My children are healthy, I have clean water, I'm stronger than I think. These micro moments of recognition didn't immediately change his external circumstances, but they completely changed his internal experience. He began feeling less like a victim and more like the protagonist of his own story. The beauty of transforming recognition into ritual is that you're not depending on motivation or inspiration to practice gratitude. You've simply created a system that supports you automatically. According to Louise Hay, when you anchor positive practices to actions you already do every day, you remove resistance and make transformation inevitable. Brush your teeth and give thanks for your health. Drink your coffee and recognize abundance. Get in your car and affirm, I am safe and protected. These small rituals accumulate and create a solid foundation of emotional resilience that can't be easily shaken. What you're actually doing is retraining your brain to look for the good instead of just identifying threats and problems. This doesn't make you naive or disconnected from reality. It makes you balanced and capable of seeing the complete picture. And when you see the complete picture, you make better decisions, respond instead of react, and recover more quickly from the blows life inevitably brings. But there's a third step, perhaps the most challenging and liberating of all, that will complete this foundation of resilience we're building together. Prepare your heart, because what comes next could change everything. The necessary liberation. If there's one weight that drains your resilience more than any other, it's the guilt and shame you carry for past mistakes. Louise Hay dedicated much of her work to teaching that forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, is the gateway to all true healing. You can practice gratitude and self-compassion, but if you continue punishing yourself for old decisions, for words you said, for opportunities you lost, you'll be building your house on quicksand. Self-forgiveness isn't about justifying harmful behaviors or pretending mistakes didn't happen. It's about releasing the emotional hook keeping you trapped in an old version of yourself. It's about recognizing you did the best you could with the awareness and resources you had in that moment. We carry so many stories about who we think we should have been, about how we should have acted, about what we should have known, but the truth, the most liberating truth that exists, is that you always did the best you could within your circumstances. Louise Hay reminds us that judging your past self with the knowledge you have today is profoundly unfair. You've grown, learned, evolved. The person who made that mistake is no longer who you are now. When you forgive yourself, you're not saying what happened was right. You're saying you deserve to move forward without carrying invisible chains preventing you from flying. Let me tell you about Rachel, a mother who carried crushing guilt for being emotionally absent during her children's childhood due to her own untreated depression. Even years later, with her children grown and the relationship rebuilt, she couldn't forgive herself. This guilt consumed her and undermined any joy trying to enter her life. When she discovered Louise Hay's work, she began practicing a daily affirmation in front of the mirror. I completely forgive myself. I did the best I could, and now I choose to set myself free. At first, tears came and the words felt empty, but she persisted. Gradually, something inside her began loosening. Like a tight knot finally coming undone, she realized that forgiving herself wasn't betraying her children, it was honoring everyone's journey. According to Louise Hay, when you forgive yourself, you're telling your nervous system it's safe to relax, that you no longer need to be in attack mode against yourself. This releases an enormous amount of energy that was being used to keep you trapped in the past. That energy can now be redirected to create the present and future you truly desire. I forgive myself for not knowing what I didn't know before. Learning, I release the past and embrace this moment with love. These affirmations aren't instant magic. They're tools for deep reprogramming that, with consistent practice, completely transform your relationship with yourself. Self-forgiveness is the foundation upon which all true resilience is built, because when you forgive yourself, you give yourself permission to be human, to make mistakes, to learn, to start over as many times as necessary. You stop spending energy fighting against yourself and begin using that energy to support and strengthen yourself. And when you do this, something extraordinary happens. You become capable of forgiving others too, of releasing resentments, of freeing yourself from emotional prisons you didn't even know you were carrying. But forgiveness doesn't live only in the mind. It needs to be felt and integrated in the body. And that's exactly where we're going now. Messages from your body. Your body isn't just a vehicle carrying your mind from one place to another. It's a sophisticated communication system constantly sending you messages about your emotional state. Louise Hay revolutionized how we understand the mind-body connection by teaching that every physical tension, every pain, every discomfort carries an emotional message that needs to be heard. When you ignore these messages, when you push exhaustion under the rug and keep forcing, you're undermining your own resilience. But when you learn to listen to your body with compassion and curiosity, you gain a powerful ally in the journey of strengthening yourself from the inside out. Think about how many times you've felt that tension in your shoulders, that tightness in your chest, that persistent headache. Your body is literally shouting, "Hey, something here needs attention." Louise Hay teaches us that these physical sensations are often manifestations of unprocessed emotions, accumulated stress, forgiveness that hasn't happened yet. When you carry guilt, your shoulders become heavy. When you hold grudges, your chest tightens. When you overload yourself, your head hurts. These aren't coincidences. They're invitations to look more deeply and care for yourself holistically. I listen to my body with love and respond to its needs. Meet James, an executive who proudly ignored all his body's signals until one day his body simply said enough, and he had a complete collapse. Back pain, chronic insomnia, digestive problems, all at once. Doctors found nothing structurally wrong, but he was clearly suffering. That's when someone gave him a Louise Hay book, and he began understanding that his body was expressing what his mind refused to recognize. He was exhausted, resentful, and desperately needed rest and forgiveness. He began doing daily check-ins with his body, pausing to ask, "What do you need from me today?" And then, truly listening to the answer. According to Louise Hay, releasing physical tensions isn't just about stretching or massage, though those things help. It's about recognizing the emotion trapped in that tension and giving it permission to move and release. When you feel that knot in your stomach before a difficult situation, instead of ignoring it, place your hand there. Breathe deeply and say, "I acknowledge this fear, and I am safe." When your shoulders are tense from carrying so many responsibilities, take a pause, roll them gently, and affirm, "I release what isn't mine to carry. I trust the process of life." These simple practices create a bridge between your consciousness and your physical body. Your body is your home in this life, and the more you treat it as a precious ally instead of an obstacle to be dominated, the more resilient you become. Because resilience isn't about hardening and ignoring signs of exhaustion. It's about having the wisdom to pause, LISTEN, adjust, and move forward with more awareness. Louise Hay always said our body wants to support us, wants to heal us, wants to strengthen us, but we need to cooperate with it instead of fighting against it. And when you integrate this compassionate listening of the body with the other steps we've already explored, you create resilience that's truly sustainable. Now let's see how all these pieces connect in your daily life. Choices that build resilience isn't built through grand heroic gestures or dramatic overnight transformations. It's woven thread by thread through the small choices you make every day. Louise Hay always emphasized that every thought you choose to think, every word you choose to say, every action you choose to take is shaping who you're becoming. When you choose self-compassion instead of self-criticism in the morning, you're strengthening your foundation. When you choose to pause and breathe instead of reacting impulsively, you're strengthening your foundation. When you choose to go to bed earlier instead of forcing yourself beyond your limits, you're strengthening your foundation. These choices seem small in the moment, but they're what determine whether you'll flourish or wither. Think of your life as an emotional bank account. Every small, loving choice you make is a deposit. Every self-destructive choice is a withdrawal. Most people don't collapse because of a single major crisis. They collapse because they made emotional withdrawals every day without making sufficient deposits. Louise Hay teaches us we need to be as diligent with our emotional health as we are with our finances or physical health. This means consciously, repeatedly choosing actions that nourish you instead of those that drain you. It means saying no when your body asks for rest. It means choosing foods that energize you. It means surrounding yourself with people who lift you up. I make choices that honor my well-being and my inner peace. Let me tell you about Maria, a caregiver who dedicated every minute of her day to others and nothing to herself. She believed this was love, but actually she was completely emptying herself. When she discovered Louise Hay's work, she realized she needed to start making different small choices. She began with 5 minutes of silence in the morning before everyone woke up. Then she added a 10-minute walk at noon. Then she started saying no to requests that overwhelmed her. Each choice was small, almost insignificant in isolation. But together they completely transformed her capacity to be present and resilient for the people she loved. She wasn't being selfish, she was being wise. According to Louise Hay, you don't need to turn your entire life upside down at once. In fact, small, consistent changes are much more sustainable than radical transformations you can't maintain. Start where you are. Choose one area where you can make a small, loving change today. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's turning off notifications for an hour. Maybe it's writing 3 things you're grateful for before bed. Maybe it's looking in the mirror and saying, "I love you," even if it feels strange at first. These choices create momentum, and momentum creates transformation. I choose actions that strengthen and support me every day. The beauty of these small choices is they're always available to you, no matter how chaotic your life is. You always have the choice of how to respond to the next moment. You always have the choice to be kind to yourself instead of cruel. You always have the choice to pause and breathe instead of panicking. Louise Hay reminds us we're much more powerful than we think. And that power resides in the seemingly insignificant choices we make thousands of times a day. When you align these choices with love, respect, and compassion for yourself, you create a life that doesn't just survive storms, but flourishes through them. And for all this to truly become part of who you are, you need structures that support you. Let's explore that now. Your support system. The difference between beautiful intentions and real transformation lies in creating rituals that make self-care inevitable instead of optional. Louise Hay always taught that we need to treat our emotional and spiritual well-being with the same seriousness we treat professional commitments or external obligations. When you schedule a self-care ritual and honor it as you would honor an important meeting, you're sending a powerful message to yourself. I matter. My well-being is a priority. These rituals don't need to be elaborate or consume hours of your day. They need to be consistent, intentional, and truly nourishing for your soul. It's the loving repetition that creates lasting change. Think of rituals as sacred anchors, keeping you connected to your essence even when the external world is chaotic. It could be a 5-minute morning practice where you look in the mirror and say loving affirmations. It could be a midday pause to place your hand on your heart and breathe deeply 3 times. It could be a nighttime journaling ritual where you process the day and release what no longer serves. Louise Hay reminds us these moments aren't luxuries or indulgences. They're absolute necessities for anyone who wants to live with resilience and joy. I create sacred spaces in my routine to nourish my soul and strengthen my spirit. Meet Thomas, a doctor who lived in constant survival mode, running from one emergency to another without ever stopping to breathe. He was on the verge of burnout when a colleague suggested he create a non-negotiable self-care ritual. At first, he resisted, saying he didn't have time, but she challenged him. Do you have time to collapse? Because that's where you're headed. That woke him up. He started with a simple ritual. Every morning, before leaving home, he sat in his favorite chair for 10 minutes, drank his tea slowly, and read one page from an inspiring book. This ritual became his anchor point, the moment reminding him who he was beyond his responsibilities. It changed everything. According to Louise Hay, the key to sustainable rituals is connecting them with something you already do naturally or with a specific time of day. This removes the need for willpower and makes the ritual part of your life's natural flow. While the coffee brews, practice conscious breathing. While showering, visualize the water washing, not just your body, but also your worries. Before sleeping, place your hand on your heart and thank your body for everything it did for you today. These anchored rituals become automatic, and when they become automatic, they sustain you even on days when you're too exhausted to remember to care for yourself. What you're actually creating is an internal support system that doesn't depend on external circumstances. You're building a relationship with yourself based on commitment, respect, and unconditional love. Louise Hay always said the most important relationship you'll have in life is the relationship with yourself, and self-care rituals are how you nurture and honor that relationship. When you have these rituals firmly established, you don't just survive life's storms, you become the person who can dance in the rain, who can find peace amid chaos, who can rise again as many times as necessary. And now, it's time to put all this into practice in a concrete and transformative way. Transformative practice. Now that you've absorbed these powerful teachings, let's transform knowledge into lived experience through a simple but deeply transformative exercise. This is the 3 breaths of resilience ritual, a practice you can do anywhere, anytime, whenever you need to reconnect with your inner strength. Find a place where you can be without interruptions for just 3 minutes. You can be sitting, standing, or even lying down. What matters is that you're comfortable and present. Place one hand on your heart and the other on your belly. Feel the warmth of your own hands touching your body with gentleness. First breath, self-compassion. Close your eyes and breathe deeply through your nose, completely filling your lungs. As the air enters, think of a recent situation where you were hard on yourself. As you exhale slowly through your mouth, say out loud or mentally, I forgive myself and treat myself with the kindness I deserve. Feel these words penetrating every cell of your body. Allow any tension to begin dissolving. Second breath, gratitude. Inhale again, deeply and slowly. This time, as the air fills your lungs, bring to mind 3 things you're genuinely grateful for in this moment. As you exhale, imagine you're releasing any guilt, shame, or resentment you're still carrying. Say with conviction, I release the past and embrace this moment with love and courage. Feel your body becoming lighter, as if invisible chains were loosening. Now, keep your hands on your heart for a few more seconds. Feel your own presence, your own strength, your own resilience. You've just created a sacred moment of self-care. They can be simple things. The roof over your head, the ability to breathe, someone who loves you. As you exhale, say, I recognize the abundance that already exists in my life. Feel your heart expanding with this awareness. Third breath, forgiveness and release. Breathe deeply one more time. As you inhale, visualize a golden, warm light entering through the top of your head and descending through your entire body. This ritual can be done whenever you feel you're losing balance, whenever you need to reconnect with your essence, whenever you want to strengthen your emotional foundation. Louise Hay taught us that transformation happens through loving repetition. Practice this 3 breaths ritual every day for a week and observe how your relationship with yourself begins to change. You're planting seeds of resilience that will blossom in ways you can't even imagine yet. Your new beginning. You've just received 3 precious gifts: the self-compassion that embraces you in difficult moments, the gratitude that anchors you when everything seems uncertain, and the forgiveness that frees you from the chains of the past. These aren't just beautiful concepts, they're practical tools that, when applied with love and consistency, completely transform your ability to navigate life with grace and resilience. Louise Hay always reminded us we're much more powerful than we imagine, and that true change happens one small loving step at a time. So be gentle with yourself on this journey, celebrate every small victory, and remember, you're not alone. Every conscious breath, every loving word you say to yourself, every moment of gratitude is weaving a new reality where you don't just survive, but flourish. You deserve this life of peace, strength, and joy, and it's within your reach, starting exactly where you are now.